Nothing. I don't eat breakfast.
What do you eat?
Nothing. I
What's
don't.
your favorite food? Your cheeks aren't that chubby for me. Nothing.
Thank you. Oh my gosh. I didn't know if I could love you guys any more than this.
Hello.
Not taking this very seriously, and I will probably make fun of you, just so you know. We are having this is very light.
Now, who's the third guy in the middle?
That's, in the middle is Walter Cronkite.
Oh, okay. Okay, that makes sense.
All right, Ella, what did you eat for breakfast this morning?
Paula, can I see your mic pad?
Yeah, is it not on?
That's why we had to stop.
Oh, yeah. Probably not.
Turn this little switch on the top.
Okay. Funny thing. I was trying to think of a funny thing for PTI instead of pardon the interruption that we could call it, like something teenagers incessantly or something, but I couldn't think of a good P.
I mean,
Pardon, yeah. Pardon the idiocy. Oh, yeah, I got it. Okay.
Yes. Mic check 1 2 1 2.
Mic check 1 2.
Is your
Looks like I don't even see the light on her.
I'll look at it here. Is yours on?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Which one's the issue? The mic, the black one.
I don't think it's on.
Black pack. This one. Is it still?
Does it need new batteries? Maybe. I don't, it doesn't look on at all.
It's not. Take it off.
Is this part live streaming too, right now? Probably isn't. Oh, well. Hey, Matt. Can you hear me? There it goes.
Right now.
If you guys come to Cronkite and you take my class, which is a newsroom, we do our show here, and it runs on Arizona PBS. Youth Sports.
Hello, my name's Ella Gomez. My name's
Favorite part
Ella
about the
Gomez.
camp so far?
Good morning and welcome to PTI, or as we like to say around here, pardon the idiocy. My name is Paula Boving. We are hosting PTI here in the beautiful studios of the Cronkite School, Walter Cronkite School of Journalism and Mass Communications. We are going to debate a ton of really important topics today with our campers. We are all scared to death, we admit it, but we got Walt here, Walter Cronkite, to help us out, and we've got Tupac and Biggie offering us some moral support. So each guest will have 60 seconds to make their point. We will give them 30 seconds to have a rebuttal, and then I am going to literally kick them off the stage. So let's get underway. So our first topic is going to be about NIL deals, name, image, and likeness. This is a hot topic in the college sports world, and we are going to start right now with Alex, who is in support of this. You go, Alex.
First thing, the NCAA is a billion-dollar business for reason. It's because of the student athletes. They make all the money. They deserve to get a cut of it. They deserve the money they get. Secondly, it's helped players stay in college longer. They can get degrees instead of maybe leaving for the pros too early and end up needing the degree later. Like best example lately, Oscar Tshiebwe, he won College Basketball Player of the Year. He could have been a mid to late second round pick. He came back to college. A big part of that was because of NIL money. And then lastly, people are using NIL for like a good thing, like to charities, like Heisman finalist and Pitt QB Kenny Pickett. He sold T-shirts. All the revenue that went there went to the Boys and Girls Club near Pittsburgh. And then Michigan running back Blake Corum, he used a lot of his NIL revenue and gave out 100 turkeys on Thanksgiving for people in need.
Thank you, Alex. Ella, what do you have to say about that?
So actually, the whole NIL thing creates an unfair advantage for some parts of the college football recruitment, such as it opens an opportunity for some schools who don't have as much money as other D1 schools to not be able to recruit as many players in the country as they want. And then it also makes an unfair advantage, whereas some players who you would assume in college football would want to stay for loyal to one team, who see another team offering them more money, they would automatically go to that team. And then on top of that, it also brings into an unequal opportunity for some athletes, such as women to play sports and don't have the opportunity because they don't have as much publicity as men's sports. It just creates an unfair advantage in the whole college recruitment process. And then on top of that, it also could require a unfair advantage. So in terms of like schools who just don't have the opportunity, who don't have a bigger name than other schools, don't get their fair cut.
Wow. I'm surprised you actually did your homework, both of you. Any rebuttal there?
I mean, when it comes to like unfair advantage for recruiting, for most cases, a lot of the top schools, especially for football, have always been the top schools for recruiting. Like for example, Georgia and Alabama have had a top 5 recruiting class the 5 years before NIL, and then it's just kind of, I think it helped elevate that NIL, so yeah.
Hello?
Actually, Texas A&M has actually been a very high recruitment recently due to NIL because they have a lot more money than schools such as Alabama. And actually, Nick Saban came out one time and said that Alabama doesn't have an opportunity to get as many players as Texas A&M due to the fact that Texas A&M is offering them more money in this case.
Excellent. Well done. I have to say my expectations were low for all these campers, so I'm impressed how you started. Now get off the stage. Let's bring in Roma and Kendra. Welcome back to PTI, or as we like to call it around here, Pardon the Idiocy. We are debating hot topics in sports here at the Walter Cronkite School of Journalism and Mass Communications. We have our fine campers making strong arguments. I got to be honest, it's a little like herding cats around here, though, but I think we got everybody in place. At the end of each debate, we are going to announce a winner. We'd like to congratulate Ella for winning the last debate. Right now, we are going to talk about a decision Major League Baseball has made that starting next year, they are going to start putting advertising and ads on their uniforms. We've seen this with other sports as well. We are going to talk about whether this is a good thing or a bad thing. Rome, what's your take on this?
Well, I mean, MLB is a business corporation for a reason. You're supposed to make money and you're supposed to please your sponsors. How do you do that? By slapping a logo on your jersey. And it grows the game on the business side and it builds up their reputation to the point where you could put in sponsors from other different teams that you wouldn't really have known otherwise outside of the game of baseball. And even the commissioner agrees when he says, quote, that's a revenue source that is significant enough that it's really impossible for the sport to ignore in the long haul. So I mean, if the commissioner agrees, then in the commissioner we trust. So that's my point.
Yes, would you like to share, Kendra, what you think about this?
Yes, I think those are really, really good points that he made personally. The only thing that I truly think about that is really a big problem with this is the tradition of baseball. And baseball is a really traditional game. It's been around for a very long time. And we know over the years they have been losing a lot of viewings over the years, especially with this generation that is brand new. It's just less, popular with everyone else. And the thing is, there's tons of new rules being implemented, especially next year. There's more balls in play, there's more speed being associated with the game. And the thing is we're just wondering, this is very untraditional, and we wonder how this is gonna go and see, is it really gonna be, is it gonna lose viewership?
Fair enough. Go ahead, Rome.
I mean, to me, I don't think it's really going to lose that much viewership if you think about it because, again, like I mentioned in my open, MLB is a business for a reason. And I mean, I get it. Baseball is a sport. You're supposed to put tradition into it. But Major League Baseball is a business. And as a business, you're supposed to make a lot of money. And to make money, you're supposed to put sponsors on your jerseys.
Thoughts?
Yeah, we could see how it goes for one season. But if the viewership goes down, I think they should probably revoke whatever these patches are and see how everything goes after that. So that's all my only thoughts on it.
Our crack production staff thinks about who was the winner of this one. Was it Rome or was it Kendra? Rome. We have a champion. Get out of here, guys. Thank you for that debate. Oh, look, we have a large studio audience here at Cronkite. Thank you.
That was so
Welcome back to PTI, Pardon the Idiocy. My name is Paula Bovin, and we are debating the hottest topics in sports. This one is near and dear to my heart. Yes, I was on the College Football Playoff Committee for 4 years. Listen, I don't know why they invited me either, but I was on it. So this is going to be a good one because there's been a lot of talk about expansion, and we are going to have Chris and Leilani debate this topic. These two are very passionate. Frankly, I'm a little concerned, but Chris, let's start with you.
First of all, I mean, college football playoffs, they do need to expand. We see the same, pretty much 4 teams every year make the finals. I mean, Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State, LSU. Wait a minute. Whoa. You mean the top schools that always make the playoffs always lead in the recruiting process? That's interesting. Very, very interesting. Why do you think that is? I'll tell you why. Because the athletes want to go to the schools that make the playoffs. They want to be seen. They want to be on national television. Because not only does that help their drafting, I mean, the more you're seen, the more you're on TV, the more NFL teams look at each athlete and they see that if this guy can play or not. Also, it'll help with NIL deals. It's kind of obvious. The more you're seen, the more people look at you, and you could be a possible branding thing to make money for certain teams.
Wow.
Or schools.
I was dripping with sarcasm in that one. What do you think, Leilani? What's your thoughts on this?
So with an elongated season for the CFPA, they're going to be extremely overworked. College football players are already overworked as it is. They already have so much going on. And they're going to be playing a longer season than most NFL seasons would be. And they're not just football players. They're not just concentrated on playing football like NFL players are. They have life outside of college, outside of football. And with an elongated season, there's going to be an increased risk of injuries. Players are already backing out of bowl games because they don't want to get injured and losing the possible draft. And there is a possible discussion of the Rose Bowl and what would happen to it, as in the deadline and the kickoff starting.
Do you have a rebuttal to this?
I don't see any problem with elongating the season. I'm talking the playoffs. I mean, it gets kind of boring watching Alabama and Clemson and Georgia every year. So I think if you expand the playoffs, you see more teams in there. And I mean, like teams like, let's say, Notre Dame, who didn't make it last year, Utah sometimes. I mean, if you have the team, more players can get on TV. I mean, like it or not, all college football players, there's really one goal for them, and it's to make the NFL. And I mean, the more people see, more teams, more players are going to be in the draft process. Like GMs always say, like when it comes to the 6th or 7th round.
All right, let's see if we have a rebuttal from Leilani.
So you said more screen time, the more likely chance of them making the NFL. How will they make the NFL if they are injured? Look at Matt Corral, for instance. He was the quarterback of Ole Miss, and he got injured and was drafted for the 94th overall. I mean, that's pretty insane. That's a pretty dramatic decrease. And you talked about the NIL. I mean, how does Alton versus NCAA play into this factor? And I know a lot of people right now don't want to miss and lose the Rose Bowl, and that will be.
All right. Well said, well argued. I'm going to bring this information to the CFP committee. That was some good points, and I'm going to announce our winner. Leilani is our winner. Let's hear from the studio audience. Thank you both. Get off my stage. Welcome back to PTI, Pardon the Idiocy, here at the fine Cronkite News Studios. I would like to let our viewers know before we continue that the topics were randomly selected for our campers here. So some of them may not actually believe what they're arguing, but that's kind of the point of this exercise. So I just wanted you to know, especially before this one. Also wanted to say, I want to let you in behind the scenes of what's going on here among these two. So this one, Ryan, pretty boy here, was asking how his hair looked like 3 times. And this one here, I think you said I'm going to destroy you, did you not?
I did.
Yes, okay, so that's a little bit of behind the scenes. This is going to be a good one. We've got Ryan, we've got Morgan. We are going to talk about the WNBA, which has been under the spotlight lately about the fact that most teams do not have charter flights, even though the NBA does. Ryan, what's your take on this issue?
My take is that the WNBA should have charter flights. It shouldn't cost more than an extra $5 million maybe, and in February, the WNBA received $75 million worth of investments, which is more than the estimated revenue of the league in 2019. So with over double the money to be able to spend, I don't see why spending an extra $5 million on charter flights is any issue, unless it's going to player pay raises, which is equally valid. Also, the NWSL, the National Women's Soccer League, has Delta as a official airline sponsor, which allows them to get free flights from Delta, but they have the option to charter their flights, which the WNBA does not have. And as a result, the New York Liberty were fined $500,000 for taking a charter flight, which is absolutely outrageous, considering that games are being canceled because of the fact that teams cannot make it to their destination in time.
All right, Ryan, thank you very much. Morgan, how do you feel about this?
Okay, so I see your point, but no. First of all, the fact is that there just isn't enough money. The commissioner herself said that it would cost $20 million to charter all 12 teams for every single game of the season. And based on the $60 million revenue that you brought up, that is a third of the revenue. There's no chance that should be anywhere near a top priority. You have many other priorities that you could bring up. You could bring up player salaries, you could bring up training facilities, you can bring up medical. Anything like that is more important than chartering flights. Sure, it's important. Sure, it can make players feel more comfortable. Sure, it brings it in a more timely manner. However, if you were a WNBA player, would you rather have $100,000 more or get to fly by yourself and have a chartered flight? What do you think? That's what I thought. That is not the priority. The priority should be the salaries and other things like that.
Strong arguments on both sides. Ryan, how do you rebuttal on that one?
I did bring up player pay raises, and I also brought up the fact that they did get $75 million worth of investments, which adds on to the $60 million, which is $135 million that you can take $20 million out of. And also when players are getting COVID on their flight, like Brianna Stewart, and not being able to play for over a week because she has to quarantine, that is an issue. When flights are getting canceled and players cannot make it to the cities they need to play in, that is an issue. And that is why we need to charter flights so players can make it to their cities and play their games.
All right, do you have a response there?
Okay. So I famously have bad knees. So if you're talking about medical reasons, have them focus on the trainers, have them get their better medical needs and stuff like that. Sure, COVID is an issue and it is a risk you need to take to get onto the flights. And that $20 million, it could save players from COVID, absolutely. But can it be brought into different medical fields where it would be better used even then? I think so. Also, there's the fact that just if you look at all the other leagues with charter flights, MLB, NBA, NFL, those are all billion-dollar companies, and that's why they get it. If the WNBA can bring in that revenue, sure, have the fans who are complaining, have them promote.
All right, thank you. Both jobs well done, gentlemen. I'm hearing from our big deciding crew here in the back, and the winner is Ryan.
Yeah.
Thank you, gentlemen. Now get off my stage.
Fine.
Welcome back to PTI, Pardon the Idiocy, here at the Walter Cronkite School of Journalism and Mass Communication. Our participants in this debate are from the Cronkite Sports Broadcast Boot Camp. They are true pros, and you probably can't tell or know this, but Sam is actually wearing shorts, which is a very common anchor trip, even in the professional world, until they started showing full shots of anchors. So we are getting them ready for the real world. We have a great debate today. It's about all-star games and whether they should be just about fun or should there be something at stake, whether it's home field advantage, things like this. I sense this one might get heated. Let's start with you, Shane. What do you think?
Yeah, so these new tweaks that all of these professional teams are making to their all-star games simply aren't working. You can look at the viewership numbers and prove that. This year's Midsummer Classic, for example, drew a 10% decline in their viewership according to Fox data. And according to Sports Media Watch, the MLB All-Star Game regularly saw 20 million viewers in the early 2000s, but ever since that rule change in 2017, that hasn't topped 10 million. And those average ratings have gone down 2.5 million. So you can look at the ratings, you can look at whatever they're doing to try to make the All-Star Game a little bit more fun. But at the end of the day, it's not showing up on the viewership, and that's what makes the MLB, the NFL, and the NBA all that money. The All-Star Game used to mean something, especially in the MLB. There isn't that incentive to give it all for your league anymore, and that's why those rules should be brought back.
Interesting. All right, let's see what the other side of the argument is, Sam.
Yeah, so I think that the All-Star Games, you got to keep them for sure because it's great entertainment. Like Shane said, the numbers are down, but ways to bring it up is add more events. Like in the NBA, maybe you add 3v3 tournament. NFL, you add a flag football game. In the MLB, maybe you even add pitchers in the home run derby. Things like that, little things to bring in fans. Doesn't have to be about just winning the game itself or incentives based on the league. You can bring incentives based on money, but not within the league.
All right, what do you think? Do you have any rebuttal there, Shane?
Yeah, so anyone saying that there's an unfair advantage, especially in the MLB All-Star Game, for example, to the winning team, there's only been 3 out of 14 cases that the winning team has not had the better overall record in the October Classic, so it hasn't negatively affected the winning team in that way. So I think that if you bring those incentives back, you bring those viewers back, and more people want to watch in because it's such an important thing, especially in the MLB.
What do you feel about that, Sam?
Yeah, I think, you just have to have change somehow. You could also get rid of fan voting because fan voting, like people think it's for to bring the fans in, but really it seems to create a lot of controversy. Like this past year with the MLB, every post you see, you read the comments, everyone's like, get rid of fan voting because there's always a strong list of people that have gotten snubbed.
Good debate. Let's see what Uncle Walt says. Got a winner, Shane. Thank you, gentlemen. Get off my stage. Welcome back to PTI. Pardon the idiocy. We have 26 campers participating in our debates today, and you may not know this, but they represent most of the United States. I think we're representing about a dozen different states here at the camp. We got kind of an East Coast, West Coast vibe going, East Coast, West Coast rap argument almost. So Biggie is going to be here representing Kabir, who is from Pittsburgh, and Hannah's from SoCal, and so we got Tupac. He's Northern California, but that's okay. So we got a really good topic today. This one is a very sort of recent debate about PGA players and whether they should participate in the tour, the LIV, or some like to say LIV tour. Kabir, where do you stand on this issue?
I think that golfers should be allowed to play in the LIV tour because, I mean, the PGA is not like a dictatorship. It's a business at the end of the day. They can't choose what golfers do with their lives. If they're not going to offer competitive wages, the golfers should be allowed to go to places that offer competitive wages. If the PGA wants to keep their golfers, they need to offer higher wages. I mean, in the LIV tour, players have to play one less day. They only have to play 54 holes versus 72 holes, and they're getting paid a lot more money than they're getting paid in the PGA. Phil Mickelson signed a 2-year, $200 million contract for the LIV Tour. He's not getting that kind of money in the PGA. If the PGA wants to keep his golfers, it needs to offer competitive wages. Many golfers are moving to the LIV now. And also, if the PGA banning the players moving to LIV is a bad move for the PGA, because if they're showing that they cannot handle the competition, and they're showing that they are not able to give golfers the wages that they want.
Interesting. Hannah, what's your hot take on this?
Okay, so Kabir, imagine actually finding someone who wants to spend the rest of their life with you. So you decide to get married, right? You find out you need to get paperwork, and you go to sign documents. So you enter a building where you're supposed to sign these documents. You're happy that you're finally getting married. And before you know it, bam, you're taken from a room, sliced and diced, you've been murdered. So your fiance is waiting outside of the building, expecting you to come back, but you never do. She waits until midnight, but she finally realizes that you're missing. Your poor fiance is standing in the street waiting for you to come back. She later finds out that you were murdered. How would this make you feel?
Kabir, throwing Kabir off his game a little bit with the romance, the murder. I like it.
I don't really understand how it's going to relate to golf, but
Well, this happened to a Saudi Arabian journalist, Jamal Khashoggi. Why would you join a tour that is backed by a country who abuses human rights?
Response?
I feel like there's many. U.S. takes Saudi oil. The U.S. takes resources from Saudi and trades with Saudi. Why does the U.S. trade with Saudi Arabia then? I mean, you can't. The golfers aren't politicians. They're just trying to make a living. I mean, you can't judge a golfer for going to somewhere where the money is. Why does the U.S. take Saudi oil? Why don't you ask the U.S. government that?
Okay, true. I do understand that they want to go for money, but there's a traditional aspect that should be represented in golf, and by going to join the LIV tour, you're not putting on a green coat or playing on St. Andrews, and golf is a game of tradition, which they're missing out on.
I'm sorry, we have to stop now. Let me hear what the staff is saying, and our winner is, and this was impressive because they both dove outside of the sports realm. It was really good stuff. Kabir, our winner, right here. Now get off my stage. Sorry, my agent's been bothering me. It's been just annoying. Okay, welcome back to PTI. Pardon the idiocy. My name's Paula Bovin. I've mentioned a little bit about this awesome sports camp, and what you may not know is going on is something called the Cronkite Fastball League. If you walk up to the floor where the campers are staying, you'll notice them sitting around in a circle throwing a ball, and it's become quite heated. It's a new league started by the campers and counselors. We have a 3-time champ who we will introduce in just a little bit. And go to Cronkite Fastball League on Instagram for more information. We even have a social media director. This is a freaking big deal, so just so you know. All right. This is going to be an interesting one, especially for you baseball fans. Robo-umpires, good idea? Bad idea? I know a lot of people are split on this. We are going to have Tucker and Charlie debate this, and I want to start with Tucker. What do you think?
Yeah, thank you for the transition. Especially with baseball ramping up, it's more important than ever today that we have umpires on point. And Angel Hernandez just a few nights ago only had an 88% on point rate. Umpire's scorecard keeps track of these, and in games, it is more important than ever, especially with the season coming up to playoffs, that umpires are on point. And with robo-umps, we can do exactly that. With technology that's getting better by the day, robo-umps will be on point.
All right, let's get another opinion. I'm curious, Charlie, what you think about that.
The problem is the technology is not there. Let's be real. Go look back to the Arizona Fall League in November of 2021, and you will see the robo-umps there that were implemented by the MLB were atrocious, flat out awful. So let's go back. There was a game between the D-backs and the Rockies, the local team. It was called after 7.5 innings because both teams ran out of pitchers. The strike zone was so inconsistent that there were 22 walks registered. The players just could not play the game. It's just not ready yet. And furthermore, you can't take out the human aspect of the game. You need to have a human with critical thinking in order to be an umpire. How's a robot gonna call an out at home plate, especially if it's ultra close? Like, come on, you guys gotta be real. Umpire accuracy isn't even that bad. From 2008 to 2018, only 12% of pitches were called inaccurately.
Atrocious. I think MLB's texting me right now, Charlie. We'll have to have a word with them in a little bit. All right, Tucker, your response.
Yeah, especially today with that 12% being Angel Hernandez. And MLB is moving in a robot umpire direction, whether we like it or not. Rob Manfred has very recently gone against what the fans have wanted from the game. And it's much harder to argue with a robot than it is Joe West. By arguing with a robot, you're not going to get anywhere. And the robot strike zones are tailored to specific players, so Jose Altuve and Aaron Judge do not necessarily have the same exact zone.
All right, response?
I mean, you can't blame Angel Hernandez's sins on the entire MLB. The average umpire gets 93% of calls correct, so the whole Angel Hernandez thing is just not fair to the rest of the MLB. And as well, Major League Baseball is trying to speed up the game. Having to go to a robot umpire or going back to some other location to get a call slows down the game. That's the entire opposite of what the MLB wants to do. So why would we slow down the game when we're trying to speed it up? So in my opinion, robot umps are just not going to work.
All right, we got thousands of votes are coming in. Let me hear the winner. That would be Charlie. I'll get off my stage. Welcome back to PTI. Pardon the idiocy here at the fine Cronkite School. By the way, I hate when the talent outdresses the host here. So, all right, let's move on. We are going to talk about something that is very controversial in baseball. We're talking about the shift. I said shift. We have some pros and cons. We're going to talk to Gabby and Jack about it. Should it be banned? Should it not? Gabby, what's your hot take on it?
When I was younger, I hated the game of baseball. Why? It was boring. Okay, I believe that the shift should be banned because why do you have people standing on one side of the field? That's just going to make the game less interesting. Why? Because there's no hits. Nobody's hitting the ball. If nobody's hitting the ball, you're not playing baseball. Also, lower ratings are a major thing in baseball right now. Nobody's going to games. Nobody's watching. Why? Because there's nothing happening in the game. The shift is taking away from the sport of baseball. That's why I think.
All right. Gabby, what do you think about that, Jack?
So in baseball, you know, it's been around for as long as we can remember, and people have had to make adjustments based on where the players are positioning. One example, way back in 1941, the Indians put the shift on against Ted Williams. And, you know, they implemented a little bit over the years, but it really started gaining speed in 1946. And so because of that, Williams had a lot of the time had to fix his swing. And since he did that, he was only taking away 10 to 15 hits, or excuse me, 10 to 15 runs a season with those hits. And so because of that, he was figuring out how to get around it.
All right. Do you have a response to that, Gabby?
You mentioned him only taking away 10 to 15 hits. That's one player. Across the entire Major League Baseball Association, one player taking away 15 hits a season per team is a lot.
All right. Do you have a response to that, Jack?
Well, other players are having to figure that out too, and you know, if one player goes, or the players defensively go to the right, they'll hit to the left and vice versa, and so they're trying to figure out other ways to do it. So collectively, if they, as a team, can figure out, you know, which way they're going when a team puts them in a shift, depending on what the situation is, it could then lead to a more productive hits and runs.
All right. Hold on. The votes are in. The winner is Jack. Thank you. Get off my stage. Welcome back to PTI, Pardon the Idiocy. We've got some really interesting debate coming up. A lot of talk about this. Sports books in town are all over it. FanDuel, DraftKings. The odds are going crazy on this one. We'll have Hudson. We can talk about the drip, the swag, but also the mismatched shoes he's kind of known for. And Chathan, congratulations, by the way, 3-time champ on the Cronkite Fastball League. What's your secret?
Consistency.
Consistency.
We'll talk a little bit about that today.
All right. Okay, so yes, let me give it to our audience first. A lot of debate on this one. LeBron or Michael, who is the GOAT as far as the NBA? Who's the best player? I am reminding folks we have assigned these topics, not necessarily the ones that these campers picked. Chathan, let's start with you.
Okay, so I think Michael Jordan is the greatest of all time, but before we discuss why, I think it's important to say what defines somebody as the GOAT. I think there's two main categories that, determine somebody as the GOAT. One of those being accolades and one of those being actual performance in his career. And Michael Jordan has no doubt more accolades than LeBron because he has more MVPs, finals MVPs, and championships, and more defensive, all defensive teams. And then he also has carried teams in the playoffs. He's averaged 43 against Larry Bird and the Celtics. But he also has better advanced stats. He has a better PER, so he's more efficient, and he has more wins per 48, which is all about making your team better. And if we're going to determine the GOAT, they need to be the best player for their team, not just themselves.
All right, let's hear what you have to say, Hudson, about LeBron James.
All right, so just going to say right now, LeBron is the GOAT. And LeBron, all time, has more assists, points, rebounds, and those are all like the most important stats in basketball. And that makes him the more efficient team player. And, some people like to say, well, LeBron played longer, but LeBron has had better percentages all throughout his career than Jordan. LeBron has all the major stats to prove that he is the better player. LeBron can guard every position from the 1 to the 5. LeBron James is 3 inches taller and 34 pounds heavier, and he can do everything that Jordan can do, if not better, like dribble, shoot, and make plays. LeBron's GOAT legacy lasted way longer than Michael Jordan's. LeBron is going on his 20th season. Michael Jordan only lasted up to 15.
All right, Chathan, what do you think about that?
So when you talk about how he's lasted longer, you also have to take into effect that LeBron's played in a completely different era where sports science has almost been the best. It has been the best we've ever seen. And so when you say LeBron's played longer, I don't think that's a fair argument because Jordan was also playing in a much tougher league. That's been proven by foul count and many other stats. But when you say LeBron has better stats, he just doesn't. Michael Jordan has a way better PER, which is a big measure of rating. That means he's more efficient. And when you're talking about the GOAT, you need to be more efficient about what you do. And if LeBron has more points, yeah, he might have more points, but he also plays more games.
What do you think about that, Hudson?
Well, in 2007, LeBron appeared in his first NBA Finals. He was 23 years old. He was averaging 27.3 points per game. Nobody else on that single team averaged over 15. So it's obvious to say that he was carrying that team, and he could do it all alone by himself. Jordan, on the other hand, had likes of Scottie Pippen, Dennis Rodman, people like that.
All right. The votes are coming in. Sports books are waiting. Chathan is a winner. Get off my stage. Good morning and welcome back to PTI. Pardon the idiocy. We want to welcome all the family members that are watching on YouTube. We want you to know that your campers are also perfectly behaved and doing great. No, they are. They're actually doing great. All right, we are going to debate something really interesting, salary caps. We see that with some professional sports, not others. Is this a good thing? Is this a bad thing? We have Dimitri, we have Tobias. What do you think? Should there be a salary cap in all 4 sports leagues, Dimitri?
I think there should be a salary cap in all 4 leagues because I think it kind of makes, like, when you sign players in the league, it makes it a bit more competitive. Because, like, if you don't have the salary cap, like most of the players that are in free agency and all that, they'll mainly be signed like the big marketed teams, like the Yankees, the Dodgers, all those teams, etc. And I think with the salary cap, you can make those things more competitive here. So it puts a little limit on how much players you can sign here.
All right, thank you, Dimitri. Tobias, you have a thought on that?
I do. You spoke about competitiveness related with the salary cap, but take a sport like hockey, which implemented the salary cap 16 years ago. From that point on, in 10 of the 16 years, there have been 4 champions. There's been 3 teams that have won it 3 times, a team that's won it twice. The big markets are still winning more than the little markets. The salary cap is not doing enough to limit it. There's flaws in it. Owners are willing to pay the luxury tax and get through loopholes so that they can still get the best players. So ultimately, all the salary cap is doing is limiting player freedom. Like in soccer, there's no salary cap. There's a lot more one-year contracts, and players can choose to go and get a bigger piece of the pie with these big teams.
Dimitri, do you have a response to that?
Yes, I do. And while I appreciate your statement, I do think we still need a salary cap because, once again, one team could sign these many players here. Like they could get 3 superstars on their team, and after that, maybe once they're contract, they can get more here, and it creates you saw what the Warriors did. You know, obviously they were still with the salary cap, but an example is that they signed Kevin Durant here, and let's say if we didn't have the salary cap, let's say that would continue here, that would just make a lot of, as we say, super teams, and there would be these teams that would just be just so much power in their team, just
right.
So much talent, and other teams wouldn't have them.
Cut people off in the show. I love it. Tobias, what do you got?
You talked about the Warriors. The NBA does have a salary cap, but there's loopholes in it that the Warriors owner exposed. There's no problem with these rich owners paying a luxury tax, and all they're doing is making sure that they're going through loopholes, and what that's doing is limiting player rights, but it's still there's no salary cap. In soccer, players have a lot more freedom, and there's still super teams, but there's super teams and teams with salary caps too.
Wow, we're talking loopholes, we're talking salary cap, we're talking luxury tax. These guys did their homework. Let's hear what the experts have to say. This is a tough one, yeah. We got a winner here, Tobias. Thank you very much. Get off my stage. welcome back to PTI, Pardon the Idiocy. My name is Paula Bovin, and I keep dropping my mic if you hear these strange sounds. We got a great debate. We're going to get into soccer in just a minute, but also we have over 30 people watching this right now, and one question is, do people not have a life? Two, we're really actually grateful that you're watching this great debate. All right, soccer. Is it ever going to be as popular as football, baseball, basketball, hockey in the U.S.? We're going to talk to Niall. We're going to talk to Alex, although we'd like to call him Swifty around here. Niall, let's start with you. What's your take?
My take is that I think soccer will not be as big as the other four major U.S. sports. Let's look at it from a viewership standpoint. The MLS gathers about 250,000 viewers per regular season match. Let's look at the MLB, for example, 1.7 million viewers per game. And then if you look at the NFL, 17.1 million viewers per game for there. And then when we look at the players that are in each league, we look at Christian Pulisic, Giovanni Reina. Both were in the academy in the MLS, but then moved to Germany to play against better competition. When we look at the MLS and the rest of U.S. soccer, they need to up their talent pool, up their players in order to up the competition and make it more interesting to watch. Because when you look at the MLS compared to the Premier League, the MLS just is nowhere near.
Props for saying Premier League right, by the way. Swifty, let's go. What do you think about this issue?
Niall, I understand. Your team's in 9th place. I've been there before. But you have to understand, this league is not that bad. This year, the MLS Next Pro was launched with over 500 academy players with MLS-affiliated teams. Plus, not only the academy pipeline is very viable, the college pipeline is very viable, with the likes of Daryl Dike, Ben Bender, Tristan Blackman, Brian White, Jack Harrison, all coming through the MLS Super Draft in college. Plus, popularity in this country is not failing at all. Christian Pulisic in 2020 had the second most shirt sales in world soccer, more than Ronaldo, more than the 75 million man Mbappe, more than Virgil van Dijk, more than Benzema, more than KDB, 21% of Chelsea shirt sales. Chelsea won the Champions League, and he's their highest shirt sale player.
Wow, a lot of passion in this one. Niall, do you have a response?
Yeah, if Swifty, you can move the hair so you can see the same things I'm seeing. But when we look at other U.S. graduates moving to different leagues, let's look at Ricardo Pepe, for example. 55 matches in the MLS, 15 goals, 3 assists. Moves to the Bundesliga, been completely lackluster. 11 matches, 0 goals, 0 assists, been on the bench for most games. When we look at our U.S. players that are supposed to be helping us in this World Cup in Qatar, how are we supposed to be settling with that when other countries, let's look at England, for example, they have Harry Kane, Raheem Sterling, and they have all these different players that would make any MLS team the greatest, are on the bench for the England team. I think the U.S. needs to up their talent and make sure they can compete against other big teams.
Dang, Swifty, he dogged your hair. What are any debate on that or rebuttal?
No, all I have to say is players who are from different countries than they're playing are not failing. Jude Bellingham, Ronaldo, one of the best players of all time, was not playing in his home country. And that's ignoring the fact that MLS is not failing. Atlanta and LAFC have been attracting big players. Thiago Almada, Ezequiel Barco joined Atlanta this season. They got Luis Araujo and Josef Martinez recently. LAFC were also able to get Vela, Laurent Simon, and Chicho Arango, alongside Brian Rodriguez, all from more, at the time, popular countries for soccer.
All right, let's hear who is our winner. All right, the votes are in. The winner is Swifty. Get off my stage. Take the camera off me. Welcome back to PTI. Pardon the idiocy. There is some serious trash talking going on right now at this table. To my left, and to your right most likely, is Dylan, who is actually one of our counselors. I know he looks like a camper, but he is definitely a counselor. We also have Sam, and we're going to debate a very important topic. The NFL decided, if you'll remember, to expand to 17 games. It has received some criticism. Some people love it. Let's go with Dylan. What do you think?
So there are some people out there that think because I'm a counselor, I'm going to take it easy on this kid, Sam. Those people would be wrong. What's up, guys? I'm Dylan Rush. I love football just like tens of millions of other Americans out there, my fellow Americans. But even the most die-hard of fans do not give a rip about the preseason. Nobody watches it. Nobody cares about the preseason. The players, the coaches barely care about the preseason. So the NFL recognized this, and they shortened the preseason by 1 game. And in response, they elongated the regular season by 1 game, the games that actually matter. So by doing this, fans around the country love the decision. The fans are happy. The league is happy. The league makes an extra few $1 million from an extra regular season week. The team's selling extra tickets, parking, merchandise, concessions. The fans love it. The teams love it. The league loves it. Networks, stadiums, everyone wins. The players were polled. The players were asked, is this something you guys would want? And the players said, we want this. The players wanted this extra regular season game. Everyone's in favor for it. The only expense, a few potential injuries, but I think it's well worth the risk.
All right, we got this passionate New York thing going. What do you think, Sam?
Well, I think that the main issue is, like you said, just the few potential injuries at the end there. Few potential injuries is actually a lot bigger than just a few potential injuries. From 2009 to 2015, NFL.com reports that per week, 69 injuries happened on any given week. That's a lot. That's a lot of injuries that you're adding in just for 1 week. You also said that we're getting rid of 1 preseason game. Well, the preseason, the starters don't play. You're playing maybe a drive for 3 of them, and then 1 of the preseason games, you play the full game, which that 3rd preseason game is still staying. So getting rid of the preseason game does not help on the injuries side of that aspect. Also, head injuries is the huge factor here. There are 50, on average, 50 head collisions per player per game. And per week, on average, there are 8 concussions. So you're adding that on top by adding an extra week.
All right. Fake camper, what do you think?
Sam Levine, Ham Supreme, my fellow New Yorker. I'm going to up the stakes, all right? I'm going to make you an offer you can't refuse, my fellow New Yorker. You give me 1 reason why this isn't a good decision by the league. Give me 1 reason why making the season an extra game, 17 games, is a bad decision outside of injuries. Outside of injuries, 1 reason backed up by evidence that this was a bad decision, and I walk up to set and you win by process of elimination.
Okay, I'll give you 1 reason. Is because now it's extremely difficult to compare players from past eras in the 16-game era, which it has been since the 70s, since the majority of the league, now going forward. We've already seen, in terms of statistics, records now will be shattered at a much higher rate, so I think it's going to be very difficult to compare players from old times to see how good they are statistically compared to players from new times, because they're going to have an extra game per season to put up statistics.
All right, decision is in. It's unanimous. Let's go with Sam. Get off my stage. Nice job, guys. All right, Mia and Theo, let's turn this one quick, huh? Just because we want to